So, first of all, I want to say Tashitele and good evening. So today we will start with the Refuge Prayer as we did last time, and then a mandala and visualizing our own Guru. And with that in mind, and then we'll start the session, okay? O Sanjin Chedan Zoge Shonam La Chanju Bandu Dane Japsus Dage Jinsu Ngibe Sonam Ngin Dola Penche Sanje Drobra Jo Sanje Chet Zoge Chonam La Chanju Bandu Dane Japsus Dage Jinsu Ngibe Sonam Ngin Dola Penche Sanje Drobra Jo Sanje Chedan Zoge Chonam La Chanju bandu dane japsus dage jinsu ngebe sunam ge rola penche sanje robra yusho sanje sheta zoge chonam la chanchu bandu dane japsus dage jinsu ngebe sunam ge rola penche sanje robra yusho semje tamje dewa dan dewe jodan dembra jus donga dan donga nge jodan dawra junje donga mebe dewa damba dan menja wara juji nyere chadan nyedan drewe danyum chenpo la nebra junje semje tamje dewa dan dewe jodan dembra juji donga dan donga nge jodan dawra juji donga mebe dewa damba dan menja wara juji nyere chadan nyedan drewe danyum chenpo la Never Joro Inje Semje Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Dembra Juje Donga Dan Donga Ge Judan Traura Juje Donga Me Dewa Tamba Dan Mendra Wan Juje Nyere Chada Nyedan Danyom Chembola Never Joro Inje Changza Wa Dan Jujin Shaba Dan Jesu Yeran Kushin Sowai Gewa Jungse Dage Jesa Ba Tamje Dage Changju Chemborong Sashi Beshi Jungshi Meto Chama Rerawa Linshi Nyede Njemban Sanji Shindo Mikden Bowa Yen Jogo Namda Shinla Chubara Sho Balden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagen Chevro Pemeden Chola Kaden Chembe Gone Jezunde Kusung Toge Ngoju Zando So we visualize our own guru, whether your guru is Nyingma, Sacha, Kaju, Gelu, Chonang, whichever the tradition or lineage may be, you visualize that guru. I visualize my guru, Siddha Rinpoche, as my lifetime after lifetime guru, and that I visualize that as my witness and as a guidance, and that in mind, and then I start the session. So the topic and the name of the teaching of last time was Lamshuki Kansa Le Tambo Pala Pembe Kezo Gitne Du Shuso. So basically, it's the creation and the completion guideline for the beginner and the genuine practitioners. So these are the manual script, experience manual script. It's not just repeating. It's not a repeating method. It's rather Jamgon Kongtrul his own personal experience, his own understanding, and putting down in a written language so that all of us can understand and have more accessible. So you don't have to be how do I say, very knowledgeable about this. If you have a very common sense and common understanding, there's almost nothing that you do not understand. So that's one thing. And the other thing I just wanted to tell you this time is that yesterday I was with my Himalayan group Zoom, online Zoom class. And I was saying one thing, and I think it's very important to tell you right now, and that is, our mindset. We practice, we should practice which we appreciate, whichever we feel connected to, whichever we feel close to, whichever the lineage or tradition may be. But our perception towards the Lord Buddha's teaching, should be universal. Nyingma, Satya, Kaju, Gelo, Chonang, Shangpa, all these traditions are originated from the teachings of the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. Like an example, the Niguma's teaching, the Niguma teaching of Julu, the practice of illusion. The practice of illusion is not something that she creates out of her mind. It is rather teachings coming from the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, the interaction between the Shakyamuni and his student. And then it is retrieved from the 84,000 teachings and then put it into a more practical approach and practice, and that became known as the illusion practice. It's not something that Niguma created. So because when we think about Telopa, Naropa, Niguma, Sukhasiddhi, we have this vision and the biography idea that, they have the teaching, they have the teacher that is only Vajradhara. Yes, if you just simply look at briefly as a part of the legendary story, then it is true. But if you study their namtar, right? In Tibetan, we call namtar means their whole life story. If you read the life story carefully, then you can see, like an example, Niguma, her teacher was many Brahman master, Buddhist Brahman master, and then including the Saraha as well. And then eventually Vajradhara, So like an example, Metripa, the great Shangpa master, Mahasiddha, so we know him as a yogi, who have close connection with the four deities since he was prince, but eventually his guru was, the Shawarepa, So therefore, we have to understand that none of the tantric teaching is out of nowhere. It is all originated from the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. Whether you believe the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni gave teaching in the form of Kalachakra or not, either way, it's coming from the teachings of the Lord Buddha. So if it's so difficult to think that Buddha Shakyamuni transform himself in the Kalachakra appearance with the figure, with the tantric appearance, because it's more appropriate to teach the tantra teachings. Yeah, if it's easy to see it that way, then it's good. If it's not easy to accept to see it that way, then it's also fine. But the common understanding is all the tantric teaching is not because coming from the Mahasiddha, but rather is retrieved teachings from the 84,000 teachings of the Lord Buddha, and they examine more precisely and then bring it to the more practical method for a different practitioner. And also, all the great masters throughout the history, there's always, when it's come to empowerment and teachings, it is always interlinked, and then when it comes to the institution itself, of course, everything stays separately. It's more to do with the management. It's nothing to do with the lineage itself. So when you have to uphold the legal matters, the management of the financial matters, and of course, everything is separate. But in the teachings of the Dharma, teachings of the Buddha, teachings of the great Mahasiddhas, there is no separation. All of them, are one. So we have to see it like that. If we look at the Sajakoma Rinpoche, Sajakoma and Saja Tenzin, the previous Saja Tenzin, he have received many empowerment from many masters. If we look at His Holiness Dalai Lama, he didn't say that I am Gelupa, so therefore I will not receive any other empowerment. He didn't. He received many teachings from many great different masters. So you need to, and just like that, previous Kalu Rinpoche, He received teachings from many, many masters, Nyingma masters, Gelug masters, Sakyapa masters, Kajupa masters, Shangpa masters, so you need to have that sense of openness, but yet the very important is when it comes to practice, you have to be more close-minded, and more committed, more rigid, more dedicated, so that is very important. What is happening nowadays is that our mindset becomes a very much fixation with oneself. And then when it comes to practice, then we say, oh, everything is universal. If you have that kind of approach, everything is universal, with a lack of principle, with a lack of commitment, wherever you turn, you're going to end up in the wrong result, or the negative result. So when it comes to practice, whatever it may be, whatever the tradition may be, and then you have to be committed. When it comes to the perception of the teachings of the Lord Buddha, we have to see it as a universal. And then, of course, there's an institution that is completely separate from all of these things, and sometimes it's managed by good people, sometimes it's managed by arrogant people, and sometimes it's managed by lack of understanding of life even. So these are quite distinction. You have to make a distinction over time, and it's very important, so that you don't blame everything as Buddhism is bad, that tradition is bad, my lineage is good, so you have to make a distinction over time, and I think it's very important. And so I was saying that last time, so I just want to say this again, because Jamgon Kongtrul, he is a, how do I say, Rime, Rime. Rime means, how do I say, a universal lineage holder, non-sectarian, So previous Kalu Rinpoche was Rime, Taranatha was Rime, Chungpa Nanjo was Rime, Milarepa was Rime. All the great masters, they are Rime, So I think that's one thing that we have to keep in mind in general, But being chaotic doesn't make you Rime, Many people, they mix so many things together, and then they become chaotic, and then they call themselves Rime, with no clarity in mind, with no clarity in practice. And then that's not Rime, that's just chaos. It's very simple, So I think it's very important to understand what is the meaning of lineage, what is meaning of institution, what is meaning of all the Mahasiddhas, and then also the meaning of Rime and lineage and sectarian, non-sectarian, all these things. Understanding gradually over time is important, not based on assumption right away. So that's that. I'm speaking slow enough? Or you want me to slow down a little bit? I can be a little bit like a Tata company, like the Indian car, slowly, but doesn't break down, Okay. So that's that. Okay. So so last time we have reached to the second chapter, right? Last time we have reached to Nyamne Mandong Ngejung Konai. Last time we reached to the second chapter, which was Nyamne Mandong Ngejung Konai, the profound, to make a profound step towards the Dharma is to make a clear understanding of renunciation. And I need to explain to you. Last time I was a little bit in rush. I need to explain to you again. Renunciation, of course, in the beginning, it comes a little bit with fear, but gradually it should be a clear understanding in your mind. That is the meaning of renunciation. Constant fear and anxiety is not a renunciation, because then if you have a constant fear and anxiety, that's not renunciation. That's just simply instability, So of course, in the beginning, to dissolve our own one self fixation of our perception of reality. We must accept the relative truth, meaning of impermanence, and genuinely over time, and that sense of renunciation has to carry on as a philosophy to guide ourselves, to protect ourselves. It's very important. Like an example, if you look at the Milarepa, he refused to give teachings to the public, even though he was very much well known, because he said, oh, the moment I become, how do I say, the town's Lama, the city Lama, the moment I become a city guru or city Lama, then the practice is gone. So therefore, the city and the village have nothing for me, and my purpose is only to practice for in this life to be enlightened. So that is the meaning of renunciation. So that is a profound meaning of renunciation that we have to reach there over time. Milarepa did not stop thinking about renunciation even after he see his, how do I say, even after he have seen his own guru as a figure of the hair vajra. When he received the hair vajra empowerment from Marpa Lotsawa, he saw the pure mandala of hair vajra with the concert, with all the details of Dhaka and Dakini. If it happens to one of us, I think, I'm assuming, I'm not judging, I'm sure we will say, I'm enlightened. But he didn't. He continued to go for retreat and practice and so on and so forth. So that's that. So so therefore, the meaning of the renunciation should not be kept somewhere in the gate. It should not be kept somewhere in the beginning. It should be somewhere along with our journey, always reflecting ourselves along the journey. And that's the meaning of renunciation, because I said this so many times, I think I'm sure that you heard many times. Shangpa Master said, one of the Shangpa Master said, Tulna semjei, mantulna sangjei. Tulna means if you're under the influence of the illusion, you are sentient being, you're ordinary being. If you are absent from the illusion, you are enlightened being. The distinction is very subtle. The very origin of the illusion is illusion is not somewhere out there. The illusion becomes a reality due to our own fixation on self. Therefore, illusion becomes a reality of suffering. And then we continue again and again and again and again, right? So therefore, renunciation should be carry on to protect ourselves, not something to begin with, but rather to keep with ourselves. It's very important. If you are ordinary politician, you can say, oh, before the election, I have to be careful. Before the election, I have to be careful. After I win the election, maybe I can make some small promise with some business people. And once I finish the election, then I can do whatever I want. That's an election. That's not a Buddhist practitioner. So Buddhist practitioner has nothing to do with renunciation, something to think in the beginning and not to think about it afterwards. It's always to remind ourselves throughout the journey. So that's very important, key to keep in mind. I will tell you my own personal experience. When I come to Dharma Center around the world, when I make a tour around the world, and then in that very moment, You know, some people, some lamas, some Rinpoches, they say, Rinpoche, this is your Dharma center. You know, and this is your Dharma center, this is your place. And then in that very moment, I say to myself, okay, and then if there is my place, then there's the cause, you know, then there's all the different difficulties. Then if I'm feeling pride in this very moment, then I can be corrupted. So therefore, I have to be aware in this very moment, you know. When people praise you, when people say, oh, it belongs to you, oh, you are great, you are amazing, you are, you know, how do I say, incredible, you know, or this belongs to you, or this gift is so special, I kept for you for many years, and now that I met you, and I offer to you, you know, a sense of, I am special, I am unique, I am more than ordinary, you know, all these kind of thoughts may arise. But as a practitioner, you witness these things and then let it dissolve by itself. And if you can manage a few times, and then slowly, you know, things may appear, things will dissolve. It will not make a strong effect over time. You know, if you can not resist. Resisting is due to not understanding the true meaning of illusion. So if you're trying to resist, you know, with a sense of temptation, then that means you did not understand the true meaning of illusion, true meaning of renunciation. That means you did not accept the reality. You know, so it's very important that renunciation should not be mixed with the temptation. You know, a little bit like, oh, I have this, I don't have this, and I want to have this, and I don't have it, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So renunciation should be developed as a seeing the reality as it is, with no opinion over it, seeing as it is, knowing that there's no solution in the long run. Therefore, the only solution is to seek the Dharma, seek the truth, seek the Lord Buddha's teaching, you know, with a sense of clarity in mind, in a sense of confidence, sense of weight, you know, not just thinking in your brain, but rather weight. And it's very important, you know. So that's that. So now I go to the next one. Nyamlen jugo tebakonai. Nyamlen jugo tebakonai. And I think this is very short. Nyamlen jugo tebakonai, sense of genuine respect to the Dharma, to the masters, to the, you know, to the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Having a sense of respect is very important. Genuine respect. I think I told you last time. Nyamlen shungnam ingje konai. Nyamlen shungnam ingje konai. It means that the profound path of the Dharma is always inseparable with compassion, right? So if you don't have the true understanding of the renunciation, you know, or clarity in mind at that time, you will never have compassion, you know. So you will have compassion, but you will rather be compassionate due to pride, due to feel good, you know, you want to feel good about yourself. Therefore, you are being compassionate rather than being a selfless attitude, you know. So it's very important. You know, many of us, you know, nowadays in the world, whether it's a political world, whether it's a social world, whether it's a religious world, we use the word of compassion a little bit like a market value, you know. Oh, you know, a little bit like the feel good thing, you know. You should drink this one, you should eat this one, it will make you feel good, you know, like, oh, be compassionate, it's good, you know, not really necessarily understanding the true meaning of compassion. So if you did not have the true understanding or acceptance on the renunciation, you know, if you do have a full understanding, then there will be less fixation. As there's a less fixation, a genuine compassion arises by itself. You know, it does not need to be obtained. It does not need to be practiced. It does not need to be forced to, to get. You understand? So that's very important. Remember what I said in the beginning, that we need to have a universal approach. When it comes to practice, be more close-minded and more committed. Here it shows, the very life of the Dharma practitioner is being able to commit and sit through this journey. All of us, nowadays, we say that, oh, Lama, Rinpoche, I want to practice Dharma all my life. But now I have a job, I have a wife, I have a husband, I have a family, I have legal matters, I have a financial matters, and there's almost no time to practice Dharma because when I get home, I get tired and exhausted. It is impossible. We say that, and then we think that the Dharma, being inseparable with the Dharma, has something to do with sitting down and visualizing something and dissolving something or creating something. We always reflect ourselves when it comes to the view of practicing Dharma. But here it says very clearly, having a sense of awareness in being inseparable with awareness is the true definition of bringing the Dharma into your life. We say that in 21st century, how can we bring the Dharma into our life? That's a very big, expensive question. And the very simple answer is having a sense of awareness. Or you can call it mindfulness, awareness. In Tibetan, we call it Payu Tenshe. Payu Tenshe means having awareness to the body and the mind with a sense of calmness and the clarity in mind. So that's it. And then in order to have a strength throughout your spiritual journey is to have faith in 3 jewels. By having a full understanding, the true meaning of 3 jewels. Not a blind faith, but a genuine faith. So that's very important. In order to dissolve the obstacles along the journey is having a genuine faith and trust towards your Lama, towards your Guru, towards your teacher, towards the teachings of the Buddha. So that's that. Lama Mugui. Mugui means it says having a sense of genuine devotion. A genuine devotion is not a feeling that you can craft. It's rather a realization. Just like a compassion, the less fixation there is, the more compassion there will be, right? The more you have a depth understanding towards the Dharma, the more genuine devotion that it will rise by itself without any problem. The less fixation there is, the more compassion there will be. The more compassion there is, the more depth of the Dharma understanding you will get through the clarity of your mind. As you understand that more, genuine respect and aspiration towards the Lama will come by itself. So that's that. So I think it's very important to understand correctly, because many of us, we say, how I can improve our mind devotion. We almost feel guilty of not having the devotion. It's a, how do I say? It's a saying that I don't want to work, but I want to be rich. I don't want to be committed to anything, and I want to be happy. It's a little bit like you want all the contradiction, and yet you want the result of the other side. And it's impossible. It's a little bit like I have no boat, but yet I want to reach on the other side of the river, without swimming. right? So, which is going against its nature, you're going against the contradiction, So I need to have devotion is saying a little bit like, I don't want to understand the renunciation. I don't want to understand compassion, but I want to have this one because everybody say it's good. It doesn't work like that. It's a one step after another. If you look at the Milarepa, again, there was a time that he endured so much difficulties, and there was a much later in his life where he sing so many songs, right? And in every song, there's always a refuge to his guru. Whether he was having difficulties, whether he was able to flying over the sky, whether he was able to compete with the competitor, the Bimpo competitor, the one who was not able to reach on the peak of the mountain, but he was able to reach instantly. Every song he sings, there's always a devotion to the guru. So that's that. So I think that is very important to have that kind of a mindset. So don't be the person who say, I want to cross the river without swimming and without the boat. So try to understand that devotion is a realization state of mind, not the enlightened state, obviously, but rather a middle ground quality, but has to develop through minimizing the fixation, because many people, they misunderstand between the meaning of devotion and meaning of fanatic. Fanatic, that's how you say fanatic. Being fanatic, is one thing. That's just with no clarity, nothing, just being fanatic. You lose the touch of the reality. That's not devotion. The meaning of devotion means having the clear understanding, the depth of the Dharma, the meaning of the renunciation, and the minimizing the, how do I say, less fixation. I wouldn't say no fixation, I would say less fixation. So when there's a less fixation, the more devotion there will be. And synchronizing together and practicing and doing retreat reaches you to the higher level of quality and understanding. Let's put it this way. Nyamlin trime lame damgai. Nyamlin trime lame damgai. Nyamlin trime lame damgai. In this one it says, how do I say? Nyamlin trime lame damgai. Nyamlin trime lame damgai. In order to be in the path of the Dharma without the influence of the illusion, is to fully receive the genuine advice from our guru. In order to, so now my own commentary or explanation will be like this. If you have less fixation, devotion, whatever the Lama does, it will transform by itself into the teachings naturally. You don't have to think, you don't have to implement, you don't have to tell your Dharma brothers and sisters, I see negative view, I'm not really sure what should I think. There will be no discussion. And then if it's something really wrong, you will also understand when to walk away also, because you're not losing the touch with the reality either. So that's that. Anyway, in order to receive the genuine teachings of the master, receiving the fruitful teachings, we need to have some sort of mindset with a minimum fixation. And then when we receive the teachings, and we will, the way we receive it, there's no negative opinion, there's no doubt, there's no creativity ideas. We just simply synchronize with the teachings that is given, analyzing along at the same time. And that is called Dhamma. Dhamma does not mean that you have to go how do I say, in somewhere in a secret room and offer a kata and, offer money and then requesting for damngak, and that's not how damngak works. Damngak is simply your guru gives teaching casually, and then student simply listens and synchronizing with the mind without any opinion, without any imperfection thoughts, neither the perfection thoughts, and simply synchronizing the teachings along at the same time and meditating along with it. And that is called Dhamma, so that's that. And seeing all the three kayas, all right, like the Buddha, Dhamma, how do I say, Tasum, all the Daka, Dakinis, protectors, deities, Buddha, Bodhisattvas, seeing all these three kayas as one, eventually seeing as one is the goal. Why? Because that is the whole purpose of this teaching, creation and completion. Creation, we practice creation in order to dissolve our ordinary habits. I don't like to say karma, because the moment I say karma, then people have this kind of very funny ideas of karma, that where somebody try to control and all these things. Karma is simply your own doing. So I would put it like this, your own positive habit or negative habit. So in order to dissolve ourselves from our negative habit or duality, we are practicing a creation, visualizing deity, making our offering to the stupas, cleaning, walking around the temples and all of these things. And then once there's a less fixation or rigidness in our mind, and then naturally our state of mind reaches to the more subtle level. And then once at that moment, when we practice completion, along with it, receiving the Mahamudra teaching, synchronizing together, and then eventually recognizing the nature of the mind. And that is the way, that is the way it should be. Because many people, they make a separation, they separate between, oh, I am in the path of creation, or this is Dzogrim practice, or this is Mahamudra practice. They separate a lot. That should not be the way. The creation has to combine together with the completion. Completion has to combine together with synchronizing and dissolving into a non-duality state. So that is very important. Because every practice has the three stages: creation, completion, and then transforming into a non-duality state. Because even you say a completion, there's still a subtle level of creation. Whatever you call it a completion, there's still subtle level of projection or duality. There's a subtle level of duality. When you dissolve that subtle level of duality, then with the teachings of the Mahamudra, you synchronize together, then you recognize the non-duality state. It's a little bit like how do I say? It's a little bit like a paper plane. Everybody knows paper plane. We make with our hand. But in order to fly over the sky, you have to let it go, let the paper plane do its work, and let the wind carry the paper plane itself, right? And then it lands by itself. So it's a little bit like that. So in the beginning, there's a little bit of hard work. You have to make a proper shape, proper size, proper weight. Then you put the effort, then you're letting it be, to the non-duality state. So that's that. So now we are moving to the real upcoming new chapter. Okay, so where last time we finished the first page, second page, third page, and now I'm going to the third chapter. So that's that. So the third chapter is here. Wangbo Yara Wangbo Yara Jang Unsonda Nugu Tsedu Chindan Kejensho Teda Nani Renzo Manchejang Chunyin Dembas Terui Delation Papa Ludu Chigesonji Tepa Samjung get Sambe Gomyan Gede Korimshi Namye Bonde Tautu Twenjina Tambo Tebe Legion Shiraki Korde Chugitsini Jizamdo Sambe Tuna Denzen Rabashi Ngombe Sento Umbada Chobaso Ngame Juji Chimaki Deta Meden Jume Dedutar Sajan Dozo Shindu Sangolo Nishe Mena Nyamne to Hyuche Tende Nyamnu Lota Chumeju Tama Chube Tesum Anduli Tesum Kona Choke Pashi Tesum Gomba Lota Chubese Kuking Gomde Nyawan Droseya Yanga Kuji Mike Tachula. So the summary of what I just read is of course there's a different category of how should I say practitioner. Let's call it advanced practitioner and the majority. That means all of us. So there's a minority. It's not like it's not like what we view in the social status, where we say the 1%, the elite, the billionaire, the trillionaire, and we are just the common people. That's not the right perception, in this one, the few lucky ones are actually was never the lucky ones. They were just a little bit earlier than you. Simple as that. So that's something very important to understand. They're just a little bit earlier than you. That's all it is. Because eventually all the sentient being is bound to be enlightened. It is bound to be enlightened. It is a matter of time. So that's the one fact. Okay. The second thing is that we view ourselves, I'm a beginner, I'm nobody. And we should not think like that. I was saying yesterday, to my Himalayan group, I said, if you think you are too small, His Holiness Dalai Lama said, if you think you are too small, then you should be friend with the mosquito, because it achieves nothing, right? So you can be friend with the mosquito. So we should not put ourselves under too much pressure by saying, I cannot do it, I'm a very unfortunate, and I really cannot handle anything. I don't think we should ever say we are unfortunate, because Milarepa was very unfortunate, I would say. He was known as a legendary figure, but he was very unfortunate as a human being. First of all, he had a family, a very lovely parents, born in a noble family, changed his life all of a sudden the moment his parents died. And his parents, before they passed away, they told the aunt and the uncle to look after the wealth and look after their child. And instead, the moment their parents died, and then the uncle and aunties took everything, all the wealth, all the family properties, everything. Then he made some mistakes also. He killed some people out of revenge, whether it was black magic or not a black magic, doesn't matter. He basically killed some people out of hate, like anybody else. Anybody will in this common world, So when he met Marpa Lotsawa, he didn't receive the teaching right away. He had to build a house for Marpa Lotsawa, for him and his family, 9th floor building, all by himself, for many, many, many years. Nowadays, nowadays we say, oh, I don't like this guru so much. Not good. Then, then we go in the other direction. I don't like the way he teach. Oh, the way he has a different opinion about the men and women. I don't agree with that. you know. Then his approach of the sutra level is too rough, too straightforward. I cannot handle this one. No, I need to go back to my tantric yogi, so I don't have to have any discipline, you know. So we actually very fortunate in a different way. We hardly put any effort to find the Dharma, you know. And the Milarepa was just just simply waiting. You know, he was just waiting year after year, year after year, year after year, not as a practitioner, but rather just simply waiting for the Dharma. Every time when there was a teaching or empowerment, he tried to sneak in, and then he was kicked out. You know, that's how unfortunate he was. But yet he became the more advanced practitioner, you know, and the enlightened being, and the equal to the Mahasiddhas of India, which he was praised by the Mahasiddhas from India. You know, he said, yeah, so anyway, in the land of snow, then there was the individual named Tabaga, and then I make a prostration to this yogi, you know, by the Indian master. I don't remember the right phrase, but you can check by yourself anyway. No, so that's that. So I think we should not punish ourselves with this, you know, this idea of, oh, we are in the degenerate time, you know. I don't think so. You know. Imagine, you know, if you look at the human history, we can see by ourselves, you know, like if we just spin back 45 years or 50 years, you know, people are living up to 60 years old, you know, 60 years old, 50 years old. And during the World War II, World War I, people are living miserable. There was so many misinformation and so many monarchy. And the human being are dealt as a little bit like the sheep, you know, a little bit like the, you know, like the farm animal, you know, a little bit like you push on the left, you push on the right, no human value whatsoever. And nowadays we have more human value. And of course, there's always challenge because you know, the people with the arrogance and the trickiness and the greediness, and then of course they always find a way, you know. But I think, you know, even for 100 years ago, you know, our of course the environmental state is much worse than before, you know, that is fact. I'm not saying that is good. But the human condition at the moment, you know, at least we know what are the information. We have a choice to which information we want to, you know, go to. You know, we have this independent way of doing, way of choosing, you know. So, you know, like an example, of course, there's extremist religious organization, but there's barely any killing among each other as in the time of 15th, 14th, 13th century in Europe. You know, because in olden times in Europe, you know, you're being a Protestant, unfortunate. You are Catholic, you are unfortunate, just by having a simple different belief. You know, and also is on the Muslim world, just like that. Also in India, just like that. You know, so in the olden times, there's so many unfortunate times, you know, just having a different faith. It doesn't take anything from you. Anything steal from you. It doesn't steal your soul or your property or anything. Just having a different faith becomes a life-threatening, you know. And nowadays, you know, we can speak on other people's behalf, and that is quite a good opportunity that we should cherish it and utilize it rather than being comfortable, you know. And so that's just my small opinion to make you feel better, because it is you know, better compared to the past. So of course, and going back to the teaching, it says that of course there's a few, you know, advanced practitioner who just simply with the devotion they achieve everything, you know, and then we can't do that. So what we have to do is that we have to follow the Nagarjuna's teachings and method and example, and therefore, and these are, you know, to receive teachings, to practice, to analyze, to have an analytical approach, and minimizing the unnecessary activities, minimizing the distraction, whether it's a physical distraction, whether it's a mental distraction, any form of distraction. And then first having a study, intellectual study, not with a competitive study, not like a school. Dharma study should not be like a school. It's rather should be, because when you are studying in school, you're racing against the time, you're racing against other people. You need to have a greater, good mark, or good numbers, or good scores, for your job and for your future. But the way you have to study Dharma, should be with no competitiveness, but rather simply want to, how can I, liberate myself from the sea of samsara? Therefore, I'm learning Dharma so that I can practice better, a very simple philosophy, without any competitiveness, without racing against the time, without competing with anybody. That is how you should study the Dharma, not like a racing approach, and then and he's here in teaching, it says, and then when you have an analytical approach and have a gradual understanding, all the fixation to the external world will start to go down in rubbles. Frugi means go down in rubbles. And then eventually when you meditate, practice, retreat, and then and then you will have a sense of, how should I say, confident, or a sense of trust within oneself, a sense of deep understanding. Without any regret, having a genuine and clear understanding without any regret. And then if you don't practice and only having a doubt, and that is the ultimate obstacles. So we should not approach with a full of doubt. We should rather practice with a sense of openness and find the reason and the logic out of it. And if you don't have a doubt over time and practicing and so on and so forth, and then even other people saying that you will go to hell, and then you are and yet your reaction, it will be undeterred, without any movement. Yanga kutik make so that is how much you need to invest or put the knowledge within your mind over time. Like I said before, sense of weight. So now I'm going to the next chapter. So now here is a very beautiful sentence. Similar to previous columns teaching. Here. Jawe Sombe Chusu Tadakis. Jawe Sombe Chusu Tadaki means all the teachings of the Lord Buddha, the essence of all the teachings of the Lord Buddha is to have a sense of content, a clear, content mind. What is the meaning of clear, content mind? Clear, content mind is not like, I have received my salary of this month, so I'm good. That is ordinary content. Oh, I made enough money for this year, I'm good. But even that goodness may be true in that very moment, but that changes. Then, he has this, she has this, I need to show off to this person, I need to show that I have that, and so on and on and on and on. It is not a content. It is an illusion of content. but it's not the real content. So the real definition of content, is absent from all the distraction, absent from opinion, absent from the illusion, and yet being in a state of mind of clarity, transparency, and sense of knowing. In the previous column, which is teaching, I just finished with the North American group. I said, recognizing the nature of the mind is wrong. Noticing the nature of the mind is right. Because if you say that I need to recognize nature of mind, then you have a strong fixation. You have a strong opinion. And whatever you may recognize is not a natural state of mind. Because you have a strong opinion of I need to recognize, or have to be like this. You already have a prediction. You have this mental prediction of how it should be. And if that is the approach of being content, then it's wrong also. So being in the state of mind of, being absent from distraction, being absent from the illusion, and being absent from the opinion, and simply noticing your own state of mind and being that is the true meaning of content. When you don't have distraction or illusion, if you don't have a distraction, then you have no opinion, and then when there's no opinion, then there's a transparency. You are not traveling with your thoughts, so therefore you are present. The true meaning of present means not traveling your thoughts. That is meaning of present. True meaning of present does not come down to trying to be present. A little bit like squeezing and putting together and saying, I need to recognize the nature of the mind and making the shape out of it. That's not how you recognize the nature of the mind. That is unnatural state of mind that you are trying to recognize. So therefore, in order to be truly content and present, has to be absent from distraction, opinion, illusion, and opposite of that should be transparency, clarity, and present. Right? So that's that. So few things to accept or to know, few things to distance. Right? The flaw, the negative flaw. Okay, so now going back to the text. Semgin nedunduna rangset dultabla. Semgin nyamlen tangbon jukoni nginjun kona meta mebala. So he's saying that semgin nyamlen tangbon jukoni, in order to practice your mind, it's very simple. It doesn't say deity, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and all these things. Or Tantra practitioner, Bodhicitta practitioner, or the mandala visualization, or all the Dakadakin. It doesn't say anything. Here, it's very simple method. In order to practice your mind, in order to discover your mind, you can put it this way, is the first step is Ngenjung Kona Meta Mebala. If you don't have a genuine renunciation, nothing will be useful. Ngenjung means a renunciation. Without any clear renunciation, and then nothing will be useful. And I think that, I think that's very important to know, because many masters, they said in the past, they say, whoever my student is far away, who has a faith towards me, they have a higher chance of being enlightened than the student that is right next to me. So because then when you're too close and with the sanghas and everything, and then it becomes quite unrelated with the Dharma practice. And then you come into the power struggle. That's how you say power struggle and all these things. And so therefore, genuine renunciation is very important. See, it's the beautiful sentence. Even you don't come to me for the next session next month, it's absolutely fine. Because it's here. It says very clearly, because the effect of having genuine renunciation, naturally you will have a mindset of needless approach. You will start to have needless, mentality. A little bit like a minimalist, mentality. So if you're able to keep all the external activities to the minimum, and then along with it, it has an effect to the mind, and then naturally you will be easier to approach to the non-duality state. So 자제 뇨나 잘매 된다니 잘매 ngondu 줄세 내로이. And then when you finally arrive to the non-duality state, and then that is our goal. Delishendu sanje yumesi. And there's no other Buddha than that. Takom jebe yawa changmayang rangi semki tendu surduna Nelo shiza cheba tawain, tundu julan jowan gombain, kansha tagum zizin jebain, nilok mundu jowan debutu, tuba zawachiro nawala, range simki dembran zimbain, ke zin zorim, kerim zorim chidan chigomya, tunan dinishin dongtab konade, chawdan ate pakcha, madona gomba tumi chika kunyenda, jema kunta jachi kebarim, Nema yungdu sabon zorimki mingi namdang susu nye tsikdun zhuje zhume ni jang deshin no kanza lorim chome lagong ne lume jawe gongba konichi sange yeju me jang ranrangi lodang dune nyamso lambar ne. So now here comes the important yes, there will be time to ask questions a little bit later. Tawa bomba jeba, Tawa means way of thinking, way of practicing and carrying on and so on and so forth. So of course there's a different method, way of, different philosophy, so regardless of the different philosophy, it comes down to a very simple essence. And these essence is, recognizing correctly and meditating, they're continuing. Anyway, okay, so now I'm going to the Nawala. So now I'm going to the next chapter. Nawala. In the beginning, the illusion is mainly external. Nawala. Rangi simki dembaran zimbai, and root, we have a very much fixation or rigid ideas of the external appearance, but we believe the illusion is somewhere out there or external or out there, over there. That one I'm attracted to. But but the true attraction or attachment to the external things comes from your own state of mind, the state of mind of fixation. you know. So the longer you have a fixation, the longer you have illusion. The less fixation there is, the less illusion there will be. The less illusion there will be, the less samsara there will be. It's very simple. You know, so tributes our children now, range simke damban zimbai, kerim zorim china chegomya. You know, whatever the deity practice, whether it's a creation practice, whether it's a completion practice, whichever the deity may be, the main purpose of creation and completion practice is to minimize the fixation. Tulnang means illusion. Then means it's true. You know, dembare. You know, in demba means truth. You know, in Tibetan. You know, oh, this is true. You know, what I see is true. What I believe is true. You know, denshin konate. So the whole purpose of practicing deity, whether it's a creation or completion, there's only one purpose, and that is to minimize the, how do I say, the illusion and the fixation. That is the only purpose of the creation and completion practice. That's the only purpose. Kona means only purpose. That's the only purpose. And if you are practicing deity and yet unable to make any progress, to minimize your own oneself clinging, you know, the fixation or the clinging or self-grasping, right? Then you can say practicing anything, you know, is a waste of time if you don't make a progress in that path. So that's very important to keep in our mind. Kyoma jashikya barim nama yongdo saba dorimki minge namdang soso ngetsikda treje treme nijang teshin no minge namdang soso ngetsikda. Of course, you know, there's so many different variety of practice, lineage, tradition, method, text, but you know, even if how do I say treje and treme. Treje means creativity practice, you know, and treme means non-creativity practice, you know, and both of these two are the same meaning as well. If you don't have a sense of if you don't have a sense of minimizing the fixation or the self-clinging by practicing, and then it's basically useless. So therefore, you know, treje means creativity practice, you know. Sarje same, that also goes by different name, you know. Sarje means you do for you know, you go for kora, you know, you make a temple, you make a stupa, you make a tata, you build a stupa, all these things, you know, like you chant and, you know, recite and sing a melody and sing as an offering to all the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. All these are seen as a creative practice, you know, creativity practice. And then Döme means non-creativity practice. Non-creativity practice means being in the state of mind and the sense of continuity with no creation. So being in, so I think I need to emphasize this one here. Previous Kalu Rinpoche, he said in his teaching, he said, first you must recognize, second you must maintain, third you must realize, you know, so there's a 3-step. So recognizing the nature of the mind is a 1 step. Second is maintaining. Third is having a realization. And once you have a realization of the nature of the mind fully, you know, without any sense of inseparable, with a sense of inseparable, then whatever the life you may choose, you know, it's fine. Then it's absolutely fine. You know, you can be a farmer, you can be a soldier, you can be anything, you know, so anything you want. It's absolutely fine. Basically, you become a yogi, right? You become a needless attitude. Obviously, you will not choose any of this lifestyle anyway at that stage. And some may do. Who knows? Like a telopa, like a marpa, like a yogi, fully realized being, and still being a farmer. So it can be like that. But let's not imagine that far. Okay, let's not try to copy them. Slowly, we go slowly. I think if everybody say, "Oh, I want to become like a marpa, become a farmer and a yogi," and yeah, you cannot copy. That's the problem. Copying somebody doesn't make you a yogi. Copying nobody, not pretending at all makes you a genuine yogi. If you say, "Oh, I look at me, I'm yogi," then you're not a yogi. So that's that. So anyway, 트위치 트레메니 대신 강사로렘 총매 공란네 르멘제 공베 코네치 상해 예주메다 라랑게 라다드네 냠셀렘 바네. So we must understand our one own capacity of mind, and then all the teachings of the Lord Buddha, when we must practice gradually over time. So that's that. So it's saying tamankawa meba anlamne walne sherapchiwe kanzagi cheju tamji tsoni konale temen jurwa putza menaya momba loda jengi juyu me. Many of us, when we, okay, I will read the text first. We have this tantric path, the path of tantric, and it is only for the wangnu shirapchewe kansagi. Wangnu means advanced being, advanced being. It's not a realized being, it's more like advanced being, just like said, a little bit earlier. And if you go back a few lifetime before, he was also he or she might be one of the late ones. So basically in your time, he or she may be the earlier one or advanced one. One sharache kansagi jeju tamche tsoni kwanale demenjuro putamenaya. And then all the tantric practitioners, they may be practicing all the creative, the creative practice and the non-creative practice, without any waste, and the continuity of the Dharma practice. But the Tantra practice is not there for playing, basically. Many of us, when we think about Tantra practice, and we think that, oh yes, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, and we jump into the conclusion that we can practice deity. And that's the problem, because even you call yourself Tantric practitioner or Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, you still need to have Chi Sotar Nang Changsem Sawangake Domba. Chi Sotar means Chi Sotabe Domba, means having an ordinary vow, sense of discipline. It doesn't mean monk or nun. It's just basically sense of discipline, sense of awareness to the oneself, continuing in life with a sense of awareness. What are the things to accept? What are the things to abandon? Chisotar. Nang changsem. Nang changsem means chisotar, externally having all this vow to protect yourself with a pure renunciation. Chisota. Nang changsem means internally having a bodhicitta vow, because we are Buddhist practitioners. We are not a Rang Sangje. Rang Sangje means a self-Buddha only. The self-Buddha is a little bit like, I want to be enlightened, but not for the sake of all the sentient beings, but for oneself. So we are not Rang Sangje. We are a Mahayana practitioner. Therefore, we have a bodhicitta vow. Chiswata Nang Chansim Sawangake Domba. Sawanga means then finally tantric vows, tantric practice. So all these three goes together, over time. So I think it's very important to understand very clearly. One can, you can be not a monk, not a nun. It's absolutely fine. You can be a Ghanaian, you can be a practitioner. And a matter of fact, you don't need to actually have any vow. Just have awareness, genuinely, that is a vow. You're not getting something from the Buddha. You are just simply asking for the Buddha to be your witness. You're not getting some kind of a access VIP ticket from the Buddha Shakyamuni. You are basically saying, Buddha, be my witness. This is my promise. This is my commitment. I want to follow your footstep. Nobody is forcing down on you. So that's that. So having a sense of awareness is almost equal as having a vow. Let's put it this way at the moment. And of course, having a vow, whether it's a bodhicitta vow, is good, beneficial and meaningful, and so on and so forth. That's a traditional explanation that we can focus on some other time. But anyway, it's a classical explanation you will understand, by yourself. So that's something very important to think about it, because when I first came to the West, and I've seen many, how do I say, so-called yogi, and it's very sad. I don't mind lamas or practitioner, having partner. It's absolutely fine. But when you pretend to be a yogi, like, oh, I can see the future and yogi, and not seeing anything. I mean, I believe in seeing the future. I believe in yogi, but pretending something that you're not, it's very saddening. And also, I'm not blaming about the West. It's just general, whether it's in the East or West, doesn't matter. Anybody who pretend to be something they're not, it's a horrible commitment. So therefore, you can be an imperfect individual, but you should not pretend something that you're not. In your job, maybe you have to pretend something that you're not, because that's how you keep your job in some field, to make other people happy, to keep your job secure. But in Dharma, you should not go in that direction. That's all I'm trying to say. In some time in job, you might have to lie because you are very uncomfortable to explain the truth. You have to pay your rent. You have to feed your children, look after your family. There may be a lot of difficulties that we may have to compromise. But when it comes to the Dharma practice, we should stop pretending something that we are not. It's as simple as that. It's very important to think it through in that way. So that's that. Jinna denshin chungshin tablamla deba mege yishi tingzude dumba juwe neke zinkena chote ngodu bebe dwele yur. And saying, now the last another chapter is saying Jinna denshin chungshin tablamla, as when you practice correctly, and all the external attachment or fixation or the self-clinging, as that minimizes, and then your devotion and your dedication develops very much with a great strength, then all the ultimate blessing can appear in a matter of time. So I think that's it for tonight. So I will let some individual to ask questions, maybe 2 or 3 questions maximum, so that, our translator and myself, we can go to sleep. Okay, before we start the question and answer, I just want to remind you where we are at the moment. We are at the 251 in the English number. Tibetan page is page 4 in Tibetan. 251 in the English number. So I do dedication, then we do question and answer. Okay. Oh, sonamde tamje zegbanye tomnenye bendrana bamjene gegana jembala trobaye seben solen do ando raisho changju semjo rimboje mage banam genju sikeba nyamba mebala one kondo pewara sho lama gombo mela dani ke beje danda simje namje ge mo mane so gombo lama mela dani ke beje danda simje ne baje mane so lama gombo mela dani ke beje danda simje namje ge baje mane so lama gombo mela dani ke beje danda simje namje ge mo mane so gombo lama mela dani ke beje danda simje namje baje mane so okay, so let's go to the questions.